All right, welcome back. This is the Sydney Cycling Club A-Grade Club Crit Championship on the 8th of March. And constant theme of this entire race is Paul just attacking. All of the attacks. And this is, as you can see from the bottom right-hand side, just 2.5 minutes in. So no rest or relaxation. I had to sort of just get back in on it. So, gaps forming almost 3 minutes in. There's no real excuse for that. So, bit of power down and essentially back on the tail. If you like looking at power data, it's there. Essentially, I'm 72 kilograms if you like to think in watts per kilo. And the speed is there. Top right-hand side, this is Heffron Park. And again, the attacks. Heffron Park is super windy. This is actually a headwind straight. And yeah, it was decently windy, as if anyone that would ever race at Heffron would know. It gets quite windy. So straight into it, only 6.5 minutes in, going deep into the red. And I'm usually a B grader. It's just for the crit championships for my, this is all Sydney CC, so just for the club. I'm A grade in my club, apparently. And my strategy for this, I didn't really have any specific, strategy other than to hold on as long as I can. I was dropped in this race the previous race. It was just very, very tough. And I didn't expect to survive this time either. So, my strategy going in was get as much sugar in before the race, and then hopefully, 20 minutes in, that sugar will take effect. So I slammed down a can of Coke, but nothing can prepare you for this sort of stuff. You make it back from an attack, and then Paul will attack again, and everyone just kind of looks at each other like, oh, really? So, as you can see, those attacks have reverberations all the way down the field. Gaps start to appear, and in the wind at Heffron, these attacks can be quite devastating. They can mean the difference between staying on or falling off. And you can see the constant theme for this is that I'm continually falling off the back of the race at 48, 49, 50k an hour, which is ridiculous. It takes a lot to get back on. And once things have calmed down, people have gotten their breaths, someone will attack again. So it was a very, very aggressive race. And you can see Pro Al here. He's gone on for another attack, and you can see the minute someone responds to it. So you've got two riders that have responded to the attack, and then suddenly everyone will respond, which really just puts people in a big red zone. And you can tell when people are suffering, these gaps open up. And at some point you have to gamble as to when's a good time to, pass a rider. How big do you let that gap be before you take over a rider and start chasing into the wind? So that is all down to experience. But luckily we played our cards right. Norris was on here, always sort of closing big gaps, which is good. And again, Paul, I think this is his fourth attack. He was blocked a bit, but that wasn't going to stop him. You can see how everyone's just gone, and I'm putting down decent wattage, but it's just ridiculous. The speed that we were going at Heffron Park and just the pace, and it was only 24 minutes in. It was very, very painful. So every time someone attacked, I was almost falling off completely. And you don't, I guess at Heffron, because there are so many corners, you don't want to sprint too hard because then you'll have to slam on the brakes around a corner. So yeah, it's really, this is Norris putting out, gosh, this was his race-ending attack. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, because that attack exhausted him to the point of he dropped out of the race completely. But luckily, Fran Bailey, one of the photographers there, was there to take a few shots of him doing the attack. So it was all worth it in the end. You can see here, 29, 30 minutes in, and, I'm barely holding onto the wheels. It was just relentless. So these guys have pretty big engines, and and even, it would just sort of relax a bit. You'd be able to get a wheel, and then it would start again. Mark in front of me has found himself, we've both found ourselves in a bit of a predicament, and he's gone to try and bridge the gap, but he's sat back down again. When someone goes to bridge a gap and then they sit back down, it's basically time to try and help them back to the group. And that's what we basically did. So it was tough. Paul, I've lost count how many attacks this is, but it's relentless. So you'd go and you can see the damage that this causes. There's a gap here that opens up. He pulls across, and you can see, because we're in the wind, I'm actually probably I'm probably hurting more than the person who originally made that attack. It's to get back onto the group. It's so painful, and luckily Chris came around and helped me back to the group, because just in the hurt locker. So 35 minutes in, I wasn't particularly looking at the time, but I kind of knew it was coming up to the end, and yeah, I knew I had to just stay on. And when you feel like you're dropping off the back, sometimes you just got to stick with it and just hit it as hard as you can, because sometimes it just eases up, really, really eases up, and you can sort of catch back on. And that's, I guess, a continuous theme of what you're watching is I'm late to respond to these attacks, not because I'm being lazy, but because I just don't have the legs. But a little bit of power consistently, and I'm able to get back on. Simply because once someone's done an attack and it gets brought back and that attack doesn't work, people slow up, and the pace will slow down considerably. So this is 37 minutes in. There's 3 minutes left to race. I thought I was gone for here for sure. I thought I was off the back and out of it. This is into a headwind, so it's even worse. And so I put my head down. I wasn't even looking. I was just sort of looking at the concrete and just going, hoping, again, that the pace would slow up and I would be able to catch back on. And luckily, that's exactly what happened. So a bit of persistence, a bit of hope, and you'd be surprised. You can go from dying on the wheel to, just give it 10, 20, 30 seconds and your legs are back into it. And that's always a good thing if you've got that anaerobic fitness. Paul goes for another attack. This is the second last lap. And again, I'm falling off the back. It's too crazy. It's A grade. These guys are proper A grade. And I'm just some B grade pleb trying to hold on. But I mean, again, it looks like this is a race-ending gap that is formed, and I'm dropping off the back at 47k an hour. But you'll see, again, slows up. I'm able to catch back on, and race on. So the persistent message here is don't give up. And if you are going to give up, go as hard as you can, and then if that's what happens, then so be it. Paul on another attack, if someone's counting, yeah, that's just so many matches. How many matches does he have? And yeah, luckily, even at 50k an hour, just sort of rounding these corners, as you can see, the track at Heffron is absolute garbage. So this is actually one of the tracks where you lower your PSI and just hope that you're not going to come off. This was the final. So this is the final before the sprint. I'm in a relatively okay position if I had the legs. Jack, I didn't realize he was actually sort of coming out, and I almost crashed here. So this was too much for me. I was off the back, sprinting, but again, in this type of race, when you go to sprint and there's nothing in the legs, that's just it. You just can't hit anywhere near the figures that you normally can. It was just I had nothing left. So it was a very, very challenging race, and I enjoyed myself immensely. So yeah, I'll be back next week. It's ItsDanK. I'll see you guys next time.